So, good evening and what's going on, people? Welcome back to another video. Tonight, I'm John and I've got a Liverpool fan with us. And please treat him gently because he's one of the big six. And his name is Luke, 1892 Reds Podcasts, and he's a Scouser. And so, welcome to be sure, Luke. And how are you today?
Thanks for letting me come on, John. Yeah, all good. I'm just glad over the last, the focus for the last couple of days, it's now started to sort of get back to some sort of normality that Liverpool, will be in the Premier League next season. So, yeah, apart from that, all good.
Yeah, I mean, that is, it's just been absolutely crazy sort of thing the last few days. I mean, you got top six going into the Super League, which I'm going to come to in a minute. And if you do like the video, could you please stick a like on the video, subscribe if you are new, and also leave your comments in the sections down below, like you always do. So Luke, we're going to have a talk about the Super League. It's going to be scrapped. Well, it's going to be scrapped anyway, unless Juve, Real Madrid, and Barca decide to say, right, enough's enough. The Super League is going to be ceased to exist after a few days.
Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? I mean, they had it all planned out. I think they've been in the talks of it for the last couple of years. UEFA sort of didn't really think nothing of it at the time, and these clubs and owners have obviously got together on their calls, and obviously they've come together with this Super League idea. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I think, for myself personally, going to, if you go to a game, I love watching the Premier League. I've grew up, watching, Premier League football, Champions League football, watching Liverpool, and I love the Champions League. I love, watching Liverpool play, the Real Madrid's, Barcelona's in the Champions League, and it's just exciting to watch. Watching Premier League football, Liverpool Newcastle is such a historic game, and for things like that to be forgotten about, it's just absurd. I'll always remember, not great for Newcastle fans, of course, but I'll always remember that late Collymore goal, obviously the 4-3. There's been times when Newcastle have a great results against Liverpool, and for Liverpool to go ahead with this Super League, well, not obviously no more, but to go ahead with the idea of it was just absolutely ludicrous. And I'm just glad that the English clubs have come to their senses and be back playing Premier League football next season.
Absolutely right, Luke. I mean, for me, it's just, I knew this would not work. Once Gary Neville started to speak on Sky Sports, then everyone stood up and actually listened at last. I mean, at the end of the day, it was ludicrous to start with. They didn't care about the fans. It was underhand. They just decided to say, okay, we can do it our way. And then they quickly realised the reason that you lot, Man U, made a statement to say that we listen to the fans because they got found out. They got found out. And, and they had no choice but to do an open statement to the fans. Now, whether the fans going to believe that or not, me personally, I wouldn't. It's well written, and for me, they just said, you know what, just sell the club. You're not wanting it anymore.
That's how I feel about FSG at the moment. On our podcast, myself and my co-host Ricky, that when we do our episodes, we've had discussions about FSG for a while. I've backed them at the start of the season. My co-host hasn't. He's obviously wants them out, and now it's obviously come to the decision now with this Super League idea that we now both want them to go, and a lot of Liverpool fans are at the same agenda. John Henry come out this morning and said that he's deeply sorry for what he's done. He's obviously taken full responsibility. But I look over the years that he's been Liverpool owner for over 10 years. I can't deny. We've won the Premier League, we've won the Champions League. He's built a new training complex. He's built a new stand. What he's done around the club is fantastic, and I'll never take that away from what FSG have done. But the three key decisions that he's made in recent times was, first of all, with the ticket rise in prices, which Liverpool protested. I think in that situation, he didn't really know the club well, and I think that's where I think Liverpool and Newcastle have a bit of a similarity, like with the fans. It's like, Newcastle's a massive club. That's obviously, for you guys in your area. And the fans are so important around each club in the Premier League. But Liverpool and Newcastle for me have that little bit of similarity there. And then the second time round, obviously, when the first lockdown with COVID, he decided to furlough some staff, which was just embarrassing. And then he obviously didn't learn his lesson now with trying to put Liverpool in this European Super League. And I think it's just come to the point now, these decisions, it's for me, it's time to move on. And hopefully we can get a good investor come in, rather sooner than later.
Absolutely, you can do a new investor now. I mean, go back to what you see. I mean, like FSG Group, unfortunately, I mean, they should have apologised way before for the season ticket rise and all that as well. Why should it take until 10 years to apologise to the fans? Why? They should have done this before with other things as well. Mike Ashley, our owner, he doesn't speak to the fans. Our chief executive, Charlie, doesn't speak to the fans. And they don't communicate with the supporters. You know what I mean? The only time they say something is when they put out a statement at the end of the season. And this football club, I mean, I got Connor asks a brilliant question, and also I got Let's Maths Debates coming on in a minute on this comments as well. I'm going to bring up in a minute, and it's just so frustrating. Communication is important between the owners, chairman, and the fans. You have to have that. They have to understand football is now with no fans. Yeah. They have to understand that. And they're lucky people are still buying season tickets. And for me, if I was a Liverpool fan, I wouldn't listen to him personally. But I could see that one of the big six going to sell the club. A couple of people, like, I think Man United is one of them.
Yeah, I think it's a good point you made there, John. I think, there'll be a bundle of people that will obviously want to buy Liverpool. There'll be lots of people that want to buy Man United. You're seeing that obviously Ed Woodward left his post yesterday, resigning as chairman. It's a massive statement for Man United to come out with that, and I think the Glazers have been under a lot of pressure, themselves. I think with Liverpool, I think the owners tried to be a bit clever this time around, because as you mentioned, football's nothing without the fans. Us fans. We make what it is, and the players love it, the manager, the coaching staff, everything about football. And I just imagining, like, if they went ahead with this Super League, like they've tried to be clever about it by trying to arrange it without fans being in the ground. Now, obviously, you've seen, Liverpool played Leeds on Monday night. There was a protest outside the ground. Obviously, Chelsea played Brighton. There was a protest there. There was a protest at Tottenham tonight. There's, if the fans were inside the stadium, it'd be so much more hostile. And I think that the owners have tried to be clever in that sense, maybe. But as I mentioned before, mate, it's just an absolute embarrassment, for Liverpool, for everything around the club. It's just, our motto is "You'll never walk alone," and it's just been highly dented with that. So it's going to be a massive rebuild for us as a football club and as a community.
Absolutely. I mean, it's got to start again top bottom. I mean, at our club as well, we still got arbitration going ahead soon with Nick DeMarco going to defend Mike Ashley and the football club to make sure the club gets sold. And whoever comes in now, right, not just Newcastle, like Liverpool, Man U, could be Spurs, it could be Arsenal with Stan Kroenke as well, to try to get him out as well. Whoever comes into these clubs, they must know the history. They must know what they've won in the history. They must know what the club is all about. Yeah. And that's exactly what didn't happen to Mike Ashley. He bought the club, he knows no history. And I still think he doesn't even know the history of the football club. They just go in and they think of one word, and that's money. No, two, money and greed. And they don't care about the fans because they know the money's going to come in anyway. So they just sit there quite happy and thinking the money's coming in. Now, after the Super League lark, now they got a sharp shock tonight, these owners. For me, they're going to think, you know what? I can't upset the fans again. If they do it again, this time they're going to drive us out. I mean, what's your take on that?
I mean, yeah, I generally think that. I mean, obviously, I'm at the assumption now that the owners have got to go now. As I mentioned before, I think that there's been a couple of situations where the owners haven't known the history about Liverpool because Liverpool are one of the biggest clubs in world football. With in England, it's no one needs to know how big they are. Obviously, everyone knows how big they are in England, of course. And I think they've had, as I mentioned before, I'll never take away from the goodness that they've done at the club with the success, and they brought in Jurgen Klopp, they brought in big players like Alisson, Van Dijk. I can't fault and deny what they've done for that sense, but it's just little things like that that just really sort of make you think that what are they really? I mean, they put a tweet out when we had Luis Suarez and Arsenal were interested, and they made that silly, ridiculous £40 million and a pound bid.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And then John Henry himself tweeted on his Twitter page, "What are they smoking at the Emirates?" And it was like, every Liverpool fan's obviously thinking, "All right, we don't want to lose Luis Suarez to Arsenal." I didn't think he'd go there anyway, but it's little things like that. You think, okay, like he's got some sort of knowledge and some sort of thing about the history of the club and how Liverpool operate, and then he just goes and does something like this. And as you said, mate, I mean, money, greed, power. Like like how much more do you want? Like you own one of the biggest clubs in world football, like, and you are, you're a massive success in America. And it's just come to a point now for me. I just feel that the owners have got to go, and I do think that something needs to be changed at Liverpool.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just want the best for your club, don't we? Do you know what I mean? That's what you need, and it just gives you a bit of hope. I've got a question here for Let's Maths Debate. Please subscribe to my channel if you already haven't. And what do you think of Newcastle's not seeing anything about the ESL? I mean, in my personal opinion, they don't come out and communicate with the fans. They don't hardly make a statement. Do you know what I mean? Or whatever sort of thing. Lee Charnley, I don't know if he's furloughed. I don't know if he's at the club. I just do not know where he is because we hear now from him. He doesn't even say a squeak to the press interview, nothing at all. So for me, Newcastle is like a silent shop. It's like a closed shop in Newcastle United. They will not come out and say it now. Connor Powell, welcome to my show. Please subscribe to my channel as well. I believe it's your first time. Even lads, question us both. Do you think the top six should be punished? And if yes, what? For me, I'd just say kick them out, basically. I don't know what you think.
It'll be a massive obviously position if they did that. But
yeah,
I think we mentioned off air briefly about like a points deduction. Maybe if they did that, I don't think it would make too much difference this season. I mean, I did see something. If Manchester City were given, I think it was like a 20-point deduction, they'd still be like sort of 2 points from the top. Like with Man United, obviously getting that deduction as well. So I don't think it makes too much difference there. The only teams it would sort of not benefit would be Liverpool, Spurs, and Arsenal because they'd be near that relegation battle if that was the case. For me, though, I do think that a points deduction is probably needed, but probably for the start of next season.
Don't do it now. Do it next season.
Yeah, I would personally. I do think that maybe there's going to be definitely sanctions from UEFA, whether they. I mean, that's because let's be real. I mean, obviously the game of the weekend's a massive game for both clubs. I mean, for Liverpool in the top four race, Newcastle with, they still feel they need some more points to survive. But personally, I think even if Liverpool finish inside the top four, they might not even be in the Champions League next year, depending if UEFA decide to punish Liverpool for what they've done. So, I personally think if the Premier League are going to do anything, it might be a points deduction to start the season. If UEFA do anything, it could be a year ban. It could be anything. But I do think something should happen for all the six.
Yeah, that could be a possibility. Points deduction. I was a bit cynical when I said kick them out of the league. Like, you know what I mean? What I meant to say is if they went in the Super League, kick them out. Start again. Put in the National League. That's all I would have said. But good point there. Fair enough. A points deduction would have been sufficient there. And I think Man City could be kicked out of the Champions League if that UEFA had their way, and even Chelsea as well. So, and I got Jake, regular on my show, evening lads. This is what happens when clubs whose owners who don't know or care about football get too rich. Mike Ashley would do exactly the same if Newcastle were a top 6 side. He would. And you know what it is, Jake, right? What I will say, right? He gets in the Super League and he will not come out and say, look, we're going to cancel it. He won't. He'll be the only club in England will stay for Super League. So you know why? Because all he thinks about is money. And you take the club on the market as well.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more, mate, to be honest. I had a chat with a couple of West Ham fans about this, and they've got their own issues with their owners themselves. But I mean, they've had a good season in the Premier League, but they were obviously trying to take the mick out of Liverpool a little bit, saying, "Oh, European Super League, etc." But I was like, but if you was in that position, if you were a bigger club, if you was constantly sort of say around the area where Liverpool are, you would have taken it. That's the owners obviously care about one thing, and that's money, and they don't care about the fans before that. So
exactly. And you know what it is? Well, I'd rather before I come on to Ryan's comments, I'd rather work my way up, compete, and then go for Champions League. Finish in the top 4, go to Champions League. I'd take it all day long. I do not want to be fast tracked into the European Super League. I would not do that. I wouldn't have that for my club at all whatsoever. I would be absolutely disappointed if Newcastle went into the Super League or signed up for it. I'll be absolutely kicking myself. I've got Ryan here. He's a Canadian and he's a Newcastle fan. Evening, lads. England is 50+1 rule, like Germany ASAP. I think that's going to happen. If there's a takeover for Newcastle has to take over, then they have to have a 50+1 rule because the government will make sure that happens. What do you think of that one?
I fully agree with you, mate. I see something. Is it 51% of all German clubs are run by the fans? I mean, that's just how important German football is for the fans and how important they recognise the fans are. I mean, I look at European nights when we played Champions League. We played Dortmund a couple of years ago, and the atmosphere there is just electric. It really is. With watching Premier League football, I've seen for example, going to St James's Park. It's the atmosphere there. It's just unbelievable. It's one of the best atmospheres in the Premier League. And looking at Germany, for example, you've got the likes of Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund. RB Leipzig have been on the rise recently. The fans are always cared about fully. And yeah, I can't agree. You have to agree with that. I think something needs to be done for the Premier League clubs. Yeah,
definitely. Because we're just so behind, are we? We really are so behind. Saying that we're the best league in the world, for me personally, I prefer Serie A football all day long. I watched a cracking game today between Milan and Sassuolo beat Milan by 2-1. Second half was a good game. You're right. And I've got Connor here. I personally think the point deduction of about minus 10 to 20 points, but more so with these owners. I think a huge fine and a transfer ban for next season. That's a very good point, Connor. I totally agree. I mean, get a huge fine, transfer ban next season.
Transfer ban would be a decent one. I think the good thing with the transfer ban is with Liverpool, for example, it's not. Obviously, they've got to make that sort of relationship bond again with UEFA in the Champions League, if there was in the competition. But they've lost a lot of respect for the other 14 clubs in the Premier League. The likes of Newcastle, Leicester, West Ham, these clubs that we're going to walk away from. And they've got to respect that barrier. So maybe a way to, sort of bridge the gap, if you know what I mean, is giving them a transfer ban for a year. It probably wouldn't affect the likes of probably Man City and probably maybe Chelsea to a certain extent. But of course, Liverpool, if they want to go for a league title next season, where I know how important it is. We need 2 or 3 players in next summer, and it could really affect them what they've done with this European Super League. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Premier League decided to do that.
Exactly. I was going to come on to that question. So I was going to say, do you think the Premier League will defend them? Do you think they sweep it under the carpet what happened and just say, look, that's nothing happened? Because I get a few people on the tweets saying they're going to swipe under the carpet. I said, nothing happened. And for me, the Premier League look after the big 6. They did not want to upset the big 6. Now this is their opportunity. And I'll tell you something else as well. This is why Liverpool Spurs did not want to take over the happen with Newcastle United. Do you know what I mean? They told them don't do it because we don't want to be the big hitters over those big six. Do you know what I mean? I hope now, Luke, that Nick DeMarco, right, the lawyer defending Mike Ashley, and Fatima, or whatever her name is, Fatima, someone, do the same as well. And I'll tell you what, if I was Fitch Master sort of thing, I'll just say, I'll just give up. Just accept this deal, because if you don't, you're going to get rattled in court, because it's opened up a can of worms that was happening in the European Super League. Amanda Staveley, one of the people on the bar of the club, has come out and said that the big six are jealous of Newcastle. And one of these days, we're going to see the day. The takeover is going to happen. We can go out celebrating. And I can see Richard Masters resigning from his post, because he clearly doesn't want it.
Yeah, I agree. I think, as you said about that protection for the big six, I do think there is. I mean, I see an interview from Brendan Rodgers recently about, you know, what classes you as a big six. You know, I mean, Spurs have never won the Premier League. Arsenal haven't won it since 2004. You know, Man United obviously haven't won it for nearly 10 years, but of course, like, you know, I'm never going to dispute Man United as not a big six, because of course they are. Man United of Premier League, you know, they're the best. They're in Premier League history. You can't. I mean, as much as I don't like them, of course, but in Premier League history, they are, you know, the best team ever in that regard. But you know, the likes of Leicester, you know, the likes of, you know, Newcastle over the years have been brilliant. You know, obviously they've had a bit of struggles recently, but you know, over the years they've been a very good Premier League side. So what classes certain teams to be a big six side? And I do agree with you. I do think the Premier League do sort of try and protect them a lot, and this is their big opportunity to try and do something about it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, they can't defend them this time. Surely they cannot defend them. If they do, then I'm sorry. All the other 14 clubs, they lose respect for the top six clubs, because this could end up being another Leipzig, because the fans, apart from Leipzig fans, did not want them in the Bundesliga first division. Do you know what I mean? And look what they've done. Champions League on a regular basis. And I've got Jake again. The Germany rule makes sense, and arguably even more important for the English game, because our pyramid is so much bigger. Football's part of our culture and our identity and needs to be protected. That's from Jake. I've got Truls says the six needs to be punished for this, and Sophia and Hayatu as well. Truls, I hope you're okay. So yeah, back to like you said about the six needs to be punished, and for this and Sophia. We just got to wait and see what happens. I mean, I don't think the Premier League will do it. I really don't. I think they'd be scared to. But you're right. I mean, they need to have a transfer ban. They need to have a heavy fine. And hopefully, as well, in my opinion, the takeover needs to be approved.
Yeah, it's hopefully let's just see what happens. I mean, you know, obviously I'm gonna stick behind my team. Hopefully Liverpool don't get too much of a problem, but you know, I just obviously I just can't. I think something will happen maybe the start of next season.
Sure, fair enough. We're going to come away from the Super League, and we're going to talk about this Saturday's game between Liverpool and Newcastle United at Anfield with 12:30 kickoff. Do the Premier League lost put us an early kickoff, or put us on the Monday night game, because the Premier League cannot stand this at all whatsoever, sort of, and that's why they give us late games. So I mean, we're both going to the team. You're trying to get in the top four. We're trying to get out, stay clear from the relegation zone with 8 points from the drop zone, which I think is good. And we go into the game 3 games unbeaten, and most importantly, only 4 wins in 24. I think it is 4 in 24, which is not a good record on the Steve Bruce. And how do you think it'll go? How do you think it's going to go on Saturday? And how do you think it's going to pan out, Luke?
It's an interesting one, really, because I mean, of course, being at Anfield, I expect Liverpool to, you know, be heavy favourites into this game. But I do, you know, we've only won 1 game at Anfield in our last 9, so it's going to be a very interesting game. I mean, I've said, you know, in previous episodes of my podcast, for example, we've been at home to Brighton, we've been at home to Burnley, we lost them games, we lost the Merseyside derby. You know, we've lost big games at home. We've lost to Fulham at home, who obviously are fighting to stay up themselves. So it's obviously like, it's one of those games where I think Liverpool can get the result, but at the same time, I'm not taking it for granted. I think Newcastle were in a good bit of form. I think they've picked up some good points, and you've done us a favour last weekend against West Ham, so we're kind of happy with that. But they're very, for me, Newcastle are very inconsistent. They can play well 1 minute, and then they can go for a run of about 5-6 games, and it's just all over the place for them. But yeah, I have to be confident with Liverpool. I think we'll get the 3 points. I think we need to, especially dropping points against Leeds. I do think we need to bounce back. With Tottenham winning earlier tonight, it's important for us to win our game and obviously keep within that race for top 4.
Yeah, it was a huge game for you on Saturday. I have to agree with you. I fully expect to beat us on Saturday, to be fair, and going to Newcastle. And like I said, 3 games unbeaten, 4 wins in 24. And I hope ASM be fit for Saturday because we're going to need him play. We thought he had an ankle injury on last week, and apparently he could be back playing on Saturday. I hope so. And he's going to play Fiat at the back again. He's going to play Murphy on wing back and left side Matt Ritchie. I'll drop John Joe Sheva. I'll play Joe Willock from the start because I think Joe Willock has been absolutely a fresh air for me. He's my midfielder. Shelby isn't. Yeah. And as long as he does play Jeff Henrik, then that's okay. But fun. Amiron, I love Amiron, but he has been scoring for a while. Okay, he's been unlucky twice. And ASM, he's been absolutely done since he came back. And Joe Linton, okay, he had a good game, good first half Saturday. And you don't know which John's going to turn up now. He cost us £40 million, and he's only scored, 3 goals this season?
So it's a lot of money.
Cost?
Yeah, it's a lot of money, especially. I mean, when Newcastle first bought him, I did think that he was going to cause a lot of problems for certain teams. It's obviously not worked out for him, obviously, at Newcastle, where I think Callum Wilson's been a good revelation for you. I think he was a good striker at Bournemouth. He does, for me, sort of fit your style of play. I do think he likes to run off defenders. He likes to get in them good positions. But yeah, I think Newcastle's always had that issue for the last couple of years, not being able to put the ball in the back of the net. But I'm not, as I said earlier, I'm not going to take it for granted. Liverpool have lost games at home which we should be winning, and Newcastle's going to be a similar game. So yeah, we defensively it'll probably more likely be the same for us. I think Alisson will be in goal, a back 4 with Trent, Robertson, Phillips and Kabak. Midfield 3 is always the one that always changes for us. I expect Fabinho to play, probably maybe Thiago. It wouldn't surprise me if Wijnaldum plays, obviously against his former club. Could be his last time he plays against his former club before he moves on.
Yeah.
And then a front 3, I expect Salah to be back in the starting lineup. It was a big decision from Klopp to drop him Monday night, so I expect Salah to start. And I expect it to be Sadio Mane and probably Diego Jota up front in place of Firmino. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting selection for Liverpool, but hopefully a game where, for our sake, we get the points that we need to that top 4.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point now. I mean, Jota's going to be a problem for us anyway. He's been scoring goals for fun, and I do like the player. I think he's quality. I've got Ryan here. Luke, what's your reaction been for Liverpool fans with the order coming out? And in fact, apology for the from today. You mentioned it earlier on, didn't you? Could you just say it again for Ryan?
Yeah, no, Ryan, that's a good question, mate. As I said to John earlier, I mean, personally, I'm embarrassed and I'm disgusted, that Liverpool have done this. It's obviously not fair on all of the other 14 Premier League clubs that, they wanted to try and leave behind. Liverpool fans, there was a mixed balance with the ownership with FSG. Do they want them to stay? Do they want them to leave? At the start of the season, I wanted them to stay, but now I want them to go. They've had a couple of obviously decisions before that have not impressed the fans. And the apology video from John Henry for me was heavily scripted. It was something that it's something that you can easily do in front of a camera for a couple of minutes. And it's he knows what he's done. He knows what he's done. And as me and John mentioned earlier, and Newcastle's a good example as well. When you go to own a football club, you seriously need to know the history of the club, and the fans are one of the most important things around Liverpool. So, I'm with a lot. I'm with at least 90% of Liverpool supporters that want the owners to go after what's happened.
Couldn't say any better, man. I couldn't say any better, sort of thing. That's passionate right there from Luke. And I got Mark here as well. It's the first time we chat, and I see him on Twitter. He's a great lad, and he's got a sister called Karen as well, and she's fantastic as well. So if I just read Mark's what he's saying, Maximan, Wilson, and Miggy must start to give Liverpool backline a problem. I have to agree with you there. And time to return the fear of our Luke. And by the way, the force with you.
Love that.
Call the Horseman, sure. And he's around us like Joe Linton. There's not even mentioned Joe Linton yet. It's not even a chat with Joe Linton. I've got Anaruda, a Bristol City fan. We lost to Effin Wickham. What a disgrace. Wow. That's not a good night for you there, mate. Honestly, you were a goal up as well at half time, I believe. And I've got ASM Wilson. Miggy must start to give Liverpool battle and problem. That's from Mark, probably written again. And Willock versus Shelby. I'll drop Shelby all day long because Shelby's done at the club. And Connor, is there anyone in the Newcastle squad you would take, or like a Liverpool, either in the starting 11 or squad?
It's a tough one. I mean, the only player I can think of that on form really causes a problem for players is probably Alan St-Maximin. I think he's a very, very good player. He's heavily going to be linked in the summer for, clubs, Big Six, if they can sign players. If, there's going to be clubs that will obviously want him, because I think he's tried his best. He obviously he's had a few injuries this year. Of course, he had that long delay with COVID. I do think St-Maximin is probably Newcastle's best player, in my opinion. And I think he's going to be a massive miss if Newcastle decide to let him go. I did like Lascelles, your centre-back. I did like Jamal Lascelles. I think he was a good centre-back coming through. Whether we need... I think we need a centre-back, but I just personally don't think Lascelles is probably the option for Liverpool. But, yeah, if I had to pick one, I would probably say St-Maximin. I think he offers so much for what Liverpool could offer for him as a team. Yeah. I mean, and I think just quickly, you mentioned about Shelby. I mean, obviously, I see Newcastle fans have mixed opinions of him. When he was at Liverpool, he moved there too early for me. It was a typical, he was a 17, 18-year-old kid from Charlton. He was doing well in League One, sort of championship level. Liverpool signed him for a very small fee. And, players at that age, they're obviously going to want to go to that big move, that big club. And I have to give him a bit of sympathy, because to be told, you're going to be an option to fill the shoes of Steven Gerrard when he retires. Training with him is brilliant. To get that experience, to train with Steven Gerrard is just a lifetime, sort of honour for a player like Shelby at that level. But I do think that when Gerrard left Liverpool, it was big shoes to fill. And it just didn't really sort of go for Shelby. And I think he'd done all right at Swansea. Newcastle, for when I've seen him play, he's done okay. But obviously at the moment, you guys don't obviously think he's sort of good enough to get into the team. But sort of mixed opinions about Jonjo Shelby for me.
Yeah, I didn't get that as well, sort of thing. But for me, I think his legs is gone. Rafa Benitez tried to get rid of him for a couple of years. Couldn't do it. He comes out and he said that Steve Bruce is the best manager he's worked with. He's got to say that because he's in the team every week. And he's captain while Malos out of the way as well. I mean, and he's lazy as well. I've never seen a player been so lazy in my life. He lets the midfielders run for him. All he does just picks the ball up and hits his Hollywood passes, and half the time just does not come off at us, sort of thing. I think it's a joke, but I definitely drop him anyway. I think he's done. I'll get rid at the end of the season. So I've got Mark here. To Joe Linton's defence, he has played much better of late. To be fair, he has. Poor against Burnley, man, but the last two home games he did okay, I'm not going to lie. So I've got Conor Gane, definitely ASM. Someone in the top 8 teams, he's taking gamble on Callum Wilson. Brilliant striker and scoring goals in a poor team. Absolutely right. I mean, he's been decent, Callum Wilson. Jake works really hard off the ball as well. I have to agree. Joe Linton has to improve. Now he's ready for the National League. I tell you what, send him back to Germany. If I had my way, where he made his name. Connor, a lot of people comparing Joe Willock and Gini Ronaldo. For me, Joe Willock is like Aaron Ramsey type player,
Mm.
where you make late runs from midfield. That's what we've been missing for years, and this guy can produce that. Gini Ronaldo, first season, all his season with Newcastle, I thought he was absolutely fantastic. Home, brilliant at home. Away from home, he just doesn't score goals, and I don't expect him to do bits away from home, but at home, he's been really decent.
Yeah, we've had him, the 4 or 5 years we've had him now since we signed him from Newcastle. Mm-hmm. I personally think he's a good player. There's a lot of mixed opinions about Gini Wijnaldum, what he offers in a football pitch for Liverpool. He obviously plays a certain role where, he tries to retain the ball, tries to break up play, tries to, sort of drive in midfield. He hasn't, the numbers for his goals and assists hasn't obviously helped him for Liverpool, maybe for the style of how he plays. But, again, he's one of those players, if he looks like he's going to leave in the summer, I can't, he'll go away as a Liverpool great. There's a lot of talks about saying that he'll be a Liverpool legend. For me, not for me. I think you got the list of Gerrard, Rush, Dalglish. You got all these big names who are Liverpool legends. Wijnaldum, yeah, he was a Liverpool great. I give him that. For 5 years, he's been at our club, but I don't think he fits that bill. But yeah, it's a difficult one, because I think at Newcastle, he had a brilliant season at Newcastle, and I think there was a couple of games where I think it was a game at St James's Park where he scored against us, and it was like you could see, how good of a player he was. And obviously going to Liverpool, I was really excited to watch him. And yeah, mixed opinions, but overall, I think he's done all right for us.
Yeah, his first season, he did well. He makes some runs, he's direct, he's skillful, takes on players, and he makes the late runs as well to score some goals. I can remember scoring 4 goals against Norwich at home, and that was a cracking performance. He got a 10 out of 10 that day on my player ratings. I got Ryan here. I'll wrap this up quickly if I do the score prediction. I got Ryan here. Just from what happened recently, I'd rather have Middle Eastern owners who have lots of money, owns football clubs, rather than these Americans who want to turn the game into an NHL and NFL. I have to agree there, because they don't want relegation. Look at your owner, Man U, right? And Kroenke also as well. They want this Super League because they do not want relegation. Do you know what I mean? So for me, like I said earlier, I don't want to play Real Madrid, Juve, Barca every single week in the Super League. I don't. But these Americans coming in as well want to control the Premier League.
Yeah, I agree with you, John. I think it's. Me obviously on our lead on my channel, when the lead review, we were speaking about what the Super League would be like. There'd be VAR decisions, and there'd be sort of halftime interval breaks, because in America, in the NFL, they love their 4-hour shows with the halftime shows, and that could be what the Super League would have been, for obviously. But I don't know who would possibly take over at Liverpool to take over John Henry if he decides to sell. But yeah, our recent owners beforehand were Tom Hicks and George Gillette, who are also American as well. So we've been Americanized for a while at Liverpool, but hopefully, whoever decides to buy it in the future, let's see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens on that as well. You're absolutely right. So we're going to wrap this up very quickly. Yeah, just a few more questions quickly. What do you think the score's going to be today? On Saturday against Newcastle, your score prediction for Saturday?
I'm going to sound really, really horrible. I think Liverpool are going to win quite comfortably. I think it's going to be. I sound big-headed. I think we're going to win 3-0. I just can't. I can't see Newcastle scoring at the weekend. Even though they've been in some good form. I can't deny that. I think if Willock starts, it might be a bit of a problem for us.
Yeah.
Midfield, he might cause us a bit of a problem. If St Maximan's, I don't know, is he fit, St Maximan? I'm pretty sure he's fit for the game.
According to one of the tweets sort of thing, I think he's going to play on Saturday. It looks like you're in that bad. His injury does look as bad at first thought. But Jake's saying 2-1 to Liverpool. I'm going to say 3-1 to Liverpool. I think we'll score, but I think we're going to lose by 3-1. And like you said, you're going to beat us comfortably. On ASM, I think he'll be fit on Saturday. It's just precautionary by the looks of it. But we're going to find Steve Bruce's press conference reaction on Friday, which I will be doing around about 7 o'clock. And he does give much away, this guy, anyway. So, yeah, I'm going to say 3-1 to Liverpool. And let's hope the team below us get beat as well, because Burnley, I mean, spot bother. Brighton got a point yesterday. Fulham, I think they might have blown it. West Brom will probably find a way. I mean, who do you think's your 3 relegation teams going to go? Who do you think going to get relegated from the Prem?
I mean,
Sheffield United.
Sheffield United gone. I think it's too late for West Brom. I do think West Brom, I think we know how good Allardyce is in a relegation battle, but not this year. I think West Brom will be gone. It's interesting because I do think that Fulham will probably go down because it's a lot of points to pick up, but I'm not ruling Burnley out of it because they've been on a really, really bad run. They've got Fulham next week, I believe. So that will be a huge 6-pointer going into that. So, Fulham, if they get a result against Burnley, then, Burnley could be putting themselves back in it. I genuinely think Newcastle will be all right. I think they've, a couple of weeks ago, of course, they were near Newcastle, near Fulham, sorry. But I think now, 7-8 points, you're above that relegation battle. I mean, because I think, is it your last game you actually go to Craven Cottage as well against Fulham?
We do.
Which could have been, that game that could have decided who stays up and who goes down. But I think it's out of Fulham or Burnley. But if I had to pick one, I think Fulham will be the last team to get relegated. Sure.
It's going to be so tight. I still think West Brom are going to get out of it. I still think they're
really.
I think they're going to find a way. I think you look at they beat Chelsea 5-2. They beat Southampton 3-0. Yeah, 8 goals in 2 games, and I think. Something telling us that I think Sam's going to get out of it, 8 points on the drop. I can't see Fulham winning 5 games. I can't see Fulham win another game. I just don't think they will. I think they bottled it. And I think Burnley will get out of it. It's a hard one. I think if I say West Brom's going to get out of it, I think Burnley's going to be the one to go. But I can't see Burnley. It's so hard. But realistically, I think it's going to be Fulham, West Brom and Sheffield United. But do not be surprised if West Brom get out of it. But there's the fear there at the minute. I think the fear's going to go. I kind of agree with you because it's a bit too late for West Brom. We know how good Sam Allardyce gets out of it, Donny, but it is tough. But I think the fear there already. I think the fear's going to go. If I'm honest here, but it's good to know City come back up again. I think Watford will join them as well, and it'd be fun in games. So. Yeah, I was going to say, before I let you go, my friend, have you enjoyed coming on my show?
No, it's been brilliant. It's looking forward to the game at the weekend. It's been great to talk about, an upcoming Premier League game, especially after all this circus talk with the European Super League. So, really, really enjoyed it coming on. Thanks for letting me come on, John. Been
Luke,
really a pleasure.
Yeah, Luke, you're always welcome to come on as well at any time. You know that my door's always open. If your fans come on the game, please let us know and I'll get you on. And I'm doing the fan cam on Saturday because my guy Bassa is not going to do his at work. So I'll be doing the fan cams at 3:30 for an hour or so. So fans can have their say. And if your fans come on for that one, let us know and I'll get you on as well. Jake, cheers, last one for a good game. And listen, I was going to say, all my viewers, thanks so much to come on and listen to us as well. And thanks to my guest, Luke. He's a great sport and a top Liverpool fan. And I'm going to wrap this up now, guys. And have a good day. And thanks for watching. Luke, thanks for watching us as well. Thanks for joining, my guy.
No problem anytime. Thanks, John.
You too. And you take care, guys. Until then, speak to you later. Are we the lads?